What if I told you that of Paul McCartney's 5 children, one would build a global empire more valuable than the Beatles' early record deals? Another would vanish from public life so completely that almost no recent photos of her exist. And his youngest is protected by a secret legal agreement so strict it dictates her entire life away from the cameras. This isn't just the story of a rock star's kids. It's a story of expectation escape and the true price of being a McCartney. You've clicked on this video because you're curious. You know Paul McCartney, the legend, the Beatle, the global icon. But behind the icon is a father to 5 very different individuals, born across 3 decades to 2 different mothers under wildly different circumstances. In this video, we are going to uncover the complete, untold story of all 5. We won't just list their names. We're going to answer the real questions. To bring you this story, I've spent weeks digging through decades of rare interviews, financial reports, art catalogs, and court documents to piece together the journeys they've taken far from the screaming crowds of their father's concerts. This isn't just a "where are they now?" This is a deep dive into the lives forged in the shadow of the world's most famous musician. Let's begin. Number 5. Heather McCartney. To understand the McCartney children, you have to start with the one who wasn't born a McCartney, the one who remembers a life before the Beatles. This is the story of Heather McCartney, the artist, the recluse, the quietest voice in a world of noise. Heather Louise McCartney was born Heather Louise C. in 1962 in Tucson, Arizona. Her father was Joseph Melville C. Jr., a highly respected geologist and ethnographer. Her mother, of course, was Linda Eastman, a budding photographer who would soon capture the heart of the music world. Heather's early life was marked by tragedy. Her parents' marriage was brief, and just as she was born, her father was killed in a plane crash. For the first few years of her life, it was just her and her mother, Linda. Everything changed in 1967. Linda, on a photography assignment in London, met Paul McCartney at the Bag O' Nails Club. The connection was instant. For Paul, falling in love with Linda also meant falling in love with her daughter. He treated Heather as his own from day one. In home videos from that era, you don't see a stepfather. You see a father teaching her to ride a bike, singing to her, drawing with her. When Paul and Linda married in 1969, 6-year-old Heather was the bridesmaid. That same year, Paul formally adopted her, and Heather C. became Heather McCartney. Unlike her future siblings, Heather grew up on the road, not in the shadow of the Beatles, but in the whirlwind of Paul's next great band, Wings. She was a fixture on their world tours in the 1970s. This unconventional upbringing fueled a deep artistic streak. While her mother captured the world through a camera lens and her father through music, Heather found her voice in the tangible world of art. She excelled at pottery and design, eventually winning the Young Blacksmith of the Year award for a unique fire screen she created. She enrolled in art school, and her future seemed set. She launched a line of housewares, her work praised for its rustic, earthy quality, a clear reflection of her upbringing on the family's Scottish farm. But then things started to change. The immense pressure and the constant public eye began to take their toll. In her late 20s, Heather was admitted to a psychiatric clinic to be treated for depression. It was a turning point. She realized the life of a public figure, a McCartney, was not the life for her. The tragic death of her mother Linda from cancer in 1998 seemed to solidify this decision. It was a devastating blow that pushed her even further away from the limelight. So where is she now? Heather McCartney has effectively retired from public life. She lives a quiet, solitary existence in a cottage on Paul's sprawling East Sussex estate, the very same land where she grew up. She is never married and has no children. She dedicates her life to her art, primarily pottery, but does so entirely for herself with no public exhibitions or sales. She has given almost no interviews in over 2 decades. Paul has fiercely protected her privacy, ensuring she can live the peaceful life she has chosen. She is the McCartney who knew fame and completely, utterly rejected it. She is the ghost in the machine of the McCartney dynasty. While Heather chose to escape the camera's lens, Paul and Linda's first biological child would choose to step behind it, following in her mother's footsteps and capturing the world's most famous faces, all while trying to forge her own identity. This is the story of Mary McCartney. Number 4. Mary McCartney. How do you follow in the footsteps of a beloved parent without being trapped in their shadow? For Mary McCartney, the answer was to pick up the very same tool her mother used to define her own legacy, the camera. But her journey would be about more than just pictures. It would be about preserving a legacy. Born in London in 1969, just after Paul adopted, Heather Mariana McCartney was the official start of the next generation. Her birth was immortalized in the song "Maybe I'm Amazed," and on the back cover of her father's first solo album, McCartney, where he's seen cradling the infant Mary inside his shearling coat. This image defined her from birth, the cherished daughter of a rock god and his soulmate. She grew up alongside her siblings on the farm in Scotland and on the road with wings. Life was an idyllic vegetarian bohemian dream, intentionally kept away from the excesses of the rock and roll lifestyle. Mary's inspiration was always her mother, Linda. She watched Linda document their lives, capturing intimate family moments with the same passion she captured rock royalty. It was Linda who gave Mary her first camera and taught her how to see the world through it. After graduating, Mary began her career as a photographer. Initially, she faced the inevitable accusations of nepotism. Was she getting work because of her skill or because of her last name? Mary answered this by quietly and consistently producing exceptional work. She specialized in portraiture, just like her mother, and developed a style known for its intimacy and relaxed nature. She could get guarded celebrities to let their walls down. Her portfolio grew to include everyone from Kate Moss and Jude Law to Taylor Swift, and even a historic commission to photograph Queen Elizabeth II, making her the only photographer besides Lord Snowdon to capture a private moment of the Queen on her throne. But Mary's work didn't stop at photography. She embraced another of her mother's passions, vegetarian cooking. She's published multiple successful cookbooks like Food Vegetarian Home Cooking, and hosts her own cooking show, Mary McCartney Serves It Up, for Discovery Plus. She became a global ambassador for Meat Free Monday, a campaign started by her father's sister and herself. In many ways, Mary became the public guardian of the Linda McCartney legacy, a legacy of art, kindness, and compassionate living. Her personal life has also been full. She has been married twice, first to television producer Alistair Donald, with whom she has 2 sons, Arthur and Elliot. After their divorce, she married director and writer Simon Aboud, and they have 2 sons together, Sam and Sid. She has managed to raise her 4 sons largely out of the spotlight, giving them the normal upbringing her parents fought to give her. Mary McCartney honored her family's legacy by embracing it. But the next McCartney child would do something far more audacious. She would build an empire so powerful, so influential, that for millions around the world, the name McCartney would be known for fashion, not music. This is the story of Stella. What does it take to not just escape the biggest shadow in entertainment, but to cast your own? For Stella McCartney, it took rebellion, unwavering conviction, and a business acumen that would make her one of the most powerful women in the world. Forget being a Beatles daughter. She built her own billion-dollar universe. Number 3. Stella. Nina McCartney was born in 1971, the 3rd child of Paul and Linda. From the beginning, she was the firecracker. While Heather was introspective and Mary was observant, Stella was fiercely independent and outspoken. She recalls being embarrassed by her dad's fame, wanting to be known for herself, not for being Paul McCartney's daughter. This drive would define her entire life. Her passion for design started early. At age 13, she designed her first jacket. By 16, she was interning for the famous designer Christian Lacroix. She studied fashion at the prestigious Central St. Martin's College in London. For her graduation show in 1995, she staged a masterclass in public relations. She got her supermodel friends Naomi Campbell and Kate Moss to walk the runway for free, and her father famously wrote the music for the show. The event became front-page news. Critics again cried nepotism, but the talent was undeniable. Just 2 years later, at the age of 25, she was appointed the creative director of the Parisian fashion house Chloe, a role once held by the legendary Karl Lagerfeld. She revitalized the brand, bringing a youthful, romantic, and confident energy to it. But she was building towards something bigger. In 2001, she launched her own eponymous fashion label in a joint venture with the Gucci Group, now Kering. And she did it on her own terms, with one radical non-negotiable condition: the entire brand would be vegetarian. No leather, no fur, no animal products. At the time, the luxury fashion industry laughed. They said it was impossible to build a high-fashion brand without leather handbags and shoes. Stella proved them all wrong. She pioneered the use of sustainable and alternative materials, from recycled plastics to mushroom leather. Her commitment to ethical fashion wasn't a gimmick. It was the core of her brand, a direct inheritance of her mother's animal rights activism. Her brand exploded. She designed the official uniforms for Team Great Britain in the 2012 and 2016 Olympics. She launched menswear, kidswear fragrances, and a hugely successful long-running collaboration with Adidas. In 2018, she took full ownership of her brand, buying out the 50% stake held by Kering, in a bold move that cemented her status as a business titan. Today, the Stella McCartney brand is a global powerhouse with dozens of stores worldwide and a valuation in the hundreds of millions, with some estimates of her personal wealth rivaling that of her father's. She married British publisher Alastair Willis in 2003, and like her sister Mary, has 4 children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. She fiercely protects their privacy. She didn't just escape her father's shadow. She created a new son for the McCartney universe to revolve around. With 3 daughters who found success in the art world, the pressure on the only son was immense and of a different kind entirely. What happens when your father is Paul McCartney and the only thing you want to do is play music? This is the complex story of James McCartney. For the only son of a musical revolutionary, there are only 2 paths: run as far away from music as possible or walk directly into the fire. James McCartney chose the fire, and it has been a long, difficult, and deeply personal journey to find his own voice in the echo of a legend. Number 2. James Louis McCartney was born in 1977, the 4th and final child of Paul and Linda. Being the only boy, the weight of musical expectation was placed on his shoulders from birth. Paul himself said he tried not to push James into music, but it was inevitable. He grew up in recording studios. His first ever guitar was a Fender Stratocaster, a gift from his father that was once owned by Carl Perkins. He played guitar on his father's albums Flaming Pie and Driving Rain, and co-wrote songs with him. Music was his native language. But this inheritance was a double-edged sword. After his mother Linda's death in 1998, a grief-stricken James retreated. He struggled with his mental health and his relationship with his family, particularly during his father's marriage to Heather Mills, which he reportedly did not approve of. For years, he worked odd jobs, even as a waiter, trying to find a sense of self away from the McCartney name. It wasn't until his late 30s that he fully committed to a solo music career. He released several EPs and 2 full-length albums, with Paul acting as a producer on some of the tracks. His music is melodic, introspective, and often tinged with a psychedelic sound, reminiscent of late-era Beatles, Sears, and his father's solo work. The comparisons were, of course, immediate and relentless. His voice has a similar timbre to his father's, and his songwriting sensibilities are clearly inherited. This has been his greatest struggle: artistic identity. In a famous 2012 interview, he floated the idea of forming a next-generation Beatles band with Sean Lennon, Donny Harrison, and Zach Starkey. The comment went viral and was met with a mix of excitement and ridicule, highlighting the impossible expectations he lives under. He has toured, playing small clubs and theaters, building a small but dedicated following. He lives a much quieter life than his sisters, often away from the London scene. He is not a stadium-filling rock star, and he seems to have made peace with that. He is a musician, a songwriter, and a son, constantly negotiating the space between those three identities. James's story is one of navigating a known legacy. But Paul McCartney's final child would be born into a situation so volatile, so fraught with public drama, that her legacy would have to be protected not by choice, but by legal force. This is the story of the most private McCartney of all, Beatrice. Born from one of the most publicized and bitter celebrity divorces in modern history, Paul McCartney's youngest child was destined for a life under the microscope. But her parents made a vow that would never happen. This is the story of Beatrice McCartney, the girl protected by an iron wall of privacy. Number 1. Beatrice Milly McCartney was born in 2003. She is the only child from Paul's marriage to former model and activist Heather Mills. Her parents' relationship, which began after Linda's death, was a tabloid obsession from the start. Their divorce in 2008 was a brutal public spectacle, with details of their private life laid bare in court documents and media reports. At the center of this storm was a 4-year-old girl. When the dust settled on a massive divorce settlement, both Paul and Heather agreed on one critical thing: Beatrice's privacy was non-negotiable. It was reportedly part of the legal agreement that she would be raised as a private citizen away from the glare of the media. And they have been incredibly successful. Unlike her older half-siblings who grew up with a camera as a constant companion, Beatrice's childhood has been deliberately normal. She splits her time between her father's estate in Sussex and her mother's home. Paul, determined not to be an old dad, has been incredibly hands-on, reportedly taking her to school every day, helping with homework and nurturing her interests. So what do we know about her? From the rare snippets her parents have shared, we know she is not starstruck. Heather Mills once said Beatrice thinks her father's music is for old people. Instead of music, she has shown incredible talent in other areas. She is reportedly a gifted poet and excels at languages. Her passion, however, is marine biology. She is a stark contrast to her famous family, a scientist in a family of artists. Now in her early 20s, she has maintained that privacy. She is not on social media. She does not attend red carpet events. She has never given an interview. Paul McCartney, who has spent over 60 years living in the public eye, has given his youngest child the one gift: he never had a normal life. Beatrice McCartney is the ultimate untold story, because that is exactly how her parents planned it. From the reclusive artist and the keeper of the flame to the empire builder, the reluctant rocker and the protected one. The 5 children of Paul McCartney have each taken the extraordinary circumstances of their birth and forged 5 unique and very human lives. Their stories are a powerful reminder that legacy isn't just what you inherit. It's what you choose to build, what you choose to protect, and sometimes what you choose to leave behind. The immense pressure placed on the McCartney children is a fascinating psychological study, but it's a story we've seen before with the children of other world-changing geniuses. Previously on this channel, we did a deep dive into the incredible, triumphant, and often tragic lives of Stephen Hawking's 3 children. What happens when your father unlocks the secrets of the universe, but struggles to connect with his own family? That untold story is one of our most fascinating, and if you want to understand the true human cost of genius, You should absolutely watch that video next. The link is on your screen right now. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this story as compelling as we did, please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more untold stories. Until next time.